Coming up on Garden Talk.
I will stress the plant out just to understand that particular cultivar. I will stress you out to your max to see what happens if I don't give you air, or you don't have no airflow. If your temperature is too hot, if your temperature is too low. I take a bucket from Home Depot and I go and I get the dry amendments. And I took the whole boxes of them and I just mix them together in a trash bag really well. And I realized I didn't build it wrong. I just was putting too much water in the container. I use tree stump for my, like people use recharge. I use tree stump. So I use tree stump and some molasses water together and some banana peels that I leave sit in the water. I put all of them in the water overnight. Gardening, it taught me to be okay with failure. It taught me to embrace failure.
What's up, everybody? For you that don't know me, my name is Chris, aka Mr. Grow It, and you're tuned into the Garden Talk podcast. This is episode number 43. In this episode, I interview Jharia Blaque. She is an indoor gardener who is big into DIY gardening. She talks about her style of gardening, which she calls hoodganics, and some of the DIY projects that she's done for her indoor garden. Thanks to all of you who support this podcast through Patreon. If you'd like to support, you can do so by going to patreon.com/MrGrowIt. Before we get into it, I want to acknowledge that one of my goals for this podcast is to bring zero cost for information about gardening, all plants, to the general public. That being said, I'd like to thank the sponsors of today's podcast who help make that goal possible. Dutch Pro is a sponsor of the podcast. Coupon code MrGrowIt10DP will get you a discount on their products. They are a plant fertilizer company that has been around for over 30 years. They originated in Amsterdam, and their nutrients are available in several countries across the world. They have everything needed for proper plant nutrition, from base nutrients to additives and pH regulators. I will leave a link to Dutch Pro's Amazon store down in the description section below. And don't forget to use coupon code MrGrowIt10DP for a discount on their products. A big supporter of this podcast is Spider Farmer. They sponsor this podcast, and I use their LED grow lights. Spider Farmer now has a bar-style series of LED grow lights. They have the SE3000, a 4-bar fixture for a 3-foot by 3-foot grow space, the SE5000, a 6-bar fixture for a 4-foot by 4-foot grow space, and the SE7000, an 8-bar fixture for a 5-foot by 5-foot grow space. I will leave a link to Spider Farmer down in the description section below, and you can use discount code MrGrowIt5 during checkout for a discount on their products. Thanks to AC Infinity for sponsoring this podcast. They sent me over their grow tent, which has a canvas density of 2000D, making them the thickest grow tent on the market today. It has an aluminum plate that mounts your controller to the grow tent with a lightproof pass-through for cable routing. The frame has 50% thicker steel poles and carries 2 times more weight than the standard grow tents. Coupon code MrGrowIt will get you a discount on their products, and I'll leave a link to their website down in the description section below. And we are back. Welcome to the Garden Talk podcast. Today I am joined with Jharia Blaque. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Ooh,
I'm
this
doing
is
good.
cozy. I get to hang out with Mr. Bro. Hey, y'all see it? I made it, y'all. I'm at the big time now. Okay.
I'm happy to have you on. You know, we've been in contact for, I don't even know how long it's been, close to a year or something like that. And you've been doing a lot of things with CL Media, and you've got your YouTube channel. You know, we're going to get into all that. And then we're going to get into your style of growing, you know, what you do in order to be successful in the garden. Really, this Garden Talk podcast is about identifying different practices that people do in their garden, and then people that are listening can take some of those best practices and implement in their garden potentially. So I want to learn all about your style today. I know you're big into DIY, so you're very, very hands-on, building things, aeroponic cloners, flood drain trays, all that stuff. So I want to get into all of that on this episode. But first, as always, can you give us an introduction? Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into gardening.
Okay, well, I'm Jharia Blaque. I live out in the East Coast. I've been gardening for about 2 years. Yeah, about 2 years now. I've been in basically around the plant for about plants or anything gardening wise around about 6 years now, 6 or 7 years now. How did I get into gardening? Whew. I got into gardening basically medicinal gardening to help my mom, basically. My mom is a recovering And I got the record store like everybody else. And she was spending a lot of money. And I figured, why not grow it? So I did that. And then I also started growing it because I cook with plants and I wanted to see money. So I went down the rabbit hole, basically. I went down the rabbit hole. I started researching, started reading. At first I thought, I'm not going to lie, I thought that I was going to put like some seeds and some dirt. Really, like, you know how you go to Home Depot somewhere, you just grab a pack of seeds? I thought I was going to put some seeds in the dirt, put some water on it, and go about my business. Like, I really did. I went in the Home Depot. You couldn't tell me I didn't know what I was doing. I brought, like, the bag of dirt, bigger dirt for $7. Some little pots. I had my little lights I got from Amazon for, like, $50 a light. My little tent. We're doing this. And once I started, I realized that growing plants is more complicated than just throwing it in the dirt and putting some water in it. Unless you're growing aloe, then that's something different. But I realized it was more to it. And then I just started reading more. Like, I'm like anyone else. I don't like to not know something. I don't like to be in a room when someone mentions something and, like, for example, everybody was throwing the word VPD around a lot. When I didn't know what that was, we Google it, we read, and I want to know. So, same thing with, beginning growing. Same thing. I couldn't figure out why certain things was happening to my dirt. Excuse me, people, I got braces. So, I couldn't figure out what was happening to my dirt, so I researched that. I couldn't figure out why my plants were looking crazy, so I researched that. And then as time was going along, I started learning about different things. As I'm Googling and researching, I'm coming across people like you, the guys over at CEO Media, Goblin, Doggo, Vader. Like, I'm coming across all these people, and I realized this is a thing. Like, this is, like, really big. So then I just started watching and, go down, it's like the blue pill or the red pill. Blue pill or the red pill. Which one you take? So I think I took a half of each. It was like, we're doing this. So fast forward to 2 years later, and now I am a organic grower. So I, every couple of days or every month or every cycle or anything, I try to learn something new. So that's where I'm at with it. I call it hoodganics. Some people call it KNF. Some people call it organics. My style is hoodganics, Chris, okay?
Hoodganics.
That's hoodganic. That's what it is. Like, that's my style. Everybody know my style is. Everybody asks me, what's your style of growing? Hoodganics. It's basically we going to figure it out. And that's what we do. So that's what I do.
Awesome. And now you've gotten to the point where you've got a YouTube channel and you're showcasing not only your grow, I've seen your grow on your YouTube channel, but you also have kind of a shows, I guess you can call it, Canasis show. You've got the Phone a Friend show. Can you talk to us a little bit about your YouTube channel and kind of what you got going on there?
Y'all hear Chris watching my show, y'all. He watching me. Wait, he watching? No. So yes. So as I was researching, and much as I love you guys, I do. It was two things I realized in the industry. One, that nobody looked like me. So when I researched, I couldn't find anybody that looked like me. That's a problem for me. Like, even when people ask me how do I pick out my lights, one of the sets of lights I have is photon type lights, and how I picked those lights out was because it was a young lady doing a demonstration on the video. That's how I picked them out. Like, it was basically, I researched, I got all the specs information from, like, sitting in different rooms, talking to different people. And then when I went to each company had a guy, doing their whole demonstration. And Photon Tech had a female. And she broke it down, and it made perfect sense. And it was relatable to me. And I thought that was dope. And I realized that there's not a lot of females in this space. So because of that, I was like, this is crazy. Like, how is there not that many females in this space? And we're the most nurturing people on the planet. Like, this is for us. We nurture. This is what we do. So, and then, like I said, it was no people that looked like me. So I decided one day I'm going to make a YouTube channel. I don't know how I started it, but I did. And it happened to work out. I reached out to people. they started saying, sure, I'll do it. Sure, I'll do it. Girl power, it's the year of the girl power. Girl power, I got you. So I realized that I wanted to bring light to females in certain businesses and just tell their story, whatever their story is. And then when you fast forward, I had realized that I wasn't talking to no guys. Like I was leaving the guys out. You know what I mean? And when you do what they call the algorithm or the data, I realized that most of the people that watched me were men. And it was just like, oh snap, like I forgot all about the guys. So I keep forgetting that as beginner, guys are beginner growers too. Because in the gardening field, it seemed like it was just men growing. So I ain't never pictured in my head that men are beginner growers. And I realized that I was leaving men out. So then I was like, you know what? Let me try, doing a separate show where I can talk to my big bros. And then I didn't want to just talk to you about gardening. Like, because I can watch you all day about gardening. I didn't want to do that. Like, I want people to get to know, like, y'all have other sides. Like, you know what I mean? We, as women on campuses, we talk about mental health, mental stress. We talk about skincare. We talk about, jewelry. We talk anything. Anything that women need to talk about, we talk about. But nobody's doing that for a man. Like, Chris, you have stress. You are a man. You have stress. You have everyday stress. So I started to figure out that I wanted to talk about mental stress for men. How do men deal with mental stress? How do men deal with being a dad with gardening for medicinal purposes? How do men use gardening in their everyday life to help them with mental stress and PTSDs and, stuff like that? Most of them, like I say, women are not in the military, but most men are in the military. No one's really talking about that. So I just feel like I need to show for it. How do you do your skincare line? What's your snacks? What's your diet? You know what I mean? Like, you are a person. You're just not just, oh, this is a man. Like, that's not how that works. You know what I mean? So I got the Big Bro Show because it was like, all right, I want to talk about gardening, or I want to talk about something in the industry that would help men that that's in that field. And then I also want to get like a little personal to let men know that here on Big Bro, we have a comfortable space for men for you to, and lack of better terms, let your hair down. Like, this space is designed for you and mine. So you can relax, hang out, and don't feel judged or whatever the case may be. And, and in the men culture, like Chris, in your household, if you're married and let's just say the bills are not paid, they're not looking at the woman in your house. They're looking at you. A lot of stuff falls on men. So you need a little bit of support. So here I am. I'm here to support. So that's how I had the Big Bro Show. So that's how I got into that.
Awesome. Yeah, I was part of one of your videos, so if anybody's interested in watching that one, just search I Got Bleach Tips, let's call Mr. Grow It. So we talk all about lighting, we get a little personal. I didn't know you were going to actually get a little personal in that video, so I was a little thrown off guard. My answers were kind of like...
Chris turned red, y'all. Chris was in a hot seat, y'all.
Did I?
Yeah. That was money shot. Money shot. Now. But yeah.
I'll definitely link that video in the description section below for those watching on YouTube if you want to check out that video on her channel. Let's dive into the grow side of things now. So you kind of already talked a little bit about your grow style, hoodganics, but can you tell us, are you an indoor grower, outdoor? Are you in soil, cocoa? You were synthetic and now you're organic. So what's your kind of overall grow style?
So when I first started, it was organics. It was Nectar of the Gods. I was still bottled up with Nectar of the Gods. So imagine that, a Nectar of the Gods with bags sorted from Home Depot. So that's what I was doing. And it got pricey over the time. So I switched over from from bottles, because I went from, so let me go back, I'm sorry. So actually, with the bottle soils of Nectar of the Gods, it starts off with a baseline of 4 bottles. So for me, because I was new, it seemed simple. When you walk into the stores and you purchase it, they give you a chart. It's like self-explanatory. And they give you how much to put in per gallon, all kinds of stuff. And then they have levels to it where they have the basics, advanced, and then they have pro. Now, the reason why I like Nectar of the Gods, because now past tense, I still like them, I just don't currently use them. It's a plug-and-play system. So if you're into like science, or you're into wanting to see what your plants can do, or any kind of growth style with your vegetables, anything, if you want to see what they're doing, you're just trying to play with it first to understand the plant. For me, Nectar of the Gods was good because It allowed me to take each bottle to see exactly what that bottle does. It's easy, Chris, for me to watch you and you be like, yeah, well, you use Bloom, it makes your peppers grow extra big. And that sounds good, but how big? How do I know how big pepper's supposed to get in the first place? You know what I mean? So I would grow a pepper out and just see what it would look like. And then the next one, I would use the Bloom. I would just plug the Bloom in, plug it in. And it would show me what the pepper would do. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Or I'll be like, oh, I don't like what it does. I'm not using it in my next cycle. So it has a plug and play system. It also allows you, in my opinion, to research any item that you're growing and know the particular information about that plant, and then figure out what stuff you want to use for your plant. What will work better. So I like that. However, once you dive into that philosophy, you get to 18 bottles. And now it's like, it becomes, a lot. So for me, that was, it's too much. I want simple. I want the best, but I want it to be simple. I have a lot of tasks that I do throughout the day. I don't have time for 18 bottles. So I started researching about nutrients. So I came across dry amendments. And it's Dr. Earth is what I use. Yeah, Dr. Earth. Now, the dopest part about that is you can cut the boxes up and put it right in your dirt. So that's cool. So I have that. And then my next thing after that, I researched soil. And then once I started researching soil, I realized I could buy different bags of soil, or I can build my soil. So I learned to build my soil. So I built my own soil. I use ProMix. I use worm castings. I use lake water. It's called Just Water Lakes. It's pretty expensive, but it's great because you just have the water. It has all already slight amendments in it. So you can use it and mix it with your ProMix and make your ProMix stretch longer. And then I use some other stuff that I get from other places. Like maybe if I decide like this cycle I'm going to go with builder soil. They have amendments that you could put in to re-amend your soil. So this cycle I'm deciding to go with builder soil. And I re-amend my soil. And the best part about it is that I get to keep all my dirt, Chris. I get to keep all my dirt. I thought that was so dope. Like I get to keep all my dirt.
You mentioned you go from bag soil to kind of mixing your own. What was the ratio you're using? So you got ProMix. Some people do like the 33, 33, 33. So do you like 33% ProMix?
See, that's what I'm saying. Hoodganics. This is Hook Organics. You get your trash can, 32. I got a 32 gallon trash can, right? Don't come for me, y'all. See, I'm going to get cruise all stickers. I got a trash can. I took the whole bag of ProMix in the trash can. I took all my dry all my food and all my other stuff, all in the trash can. I took a whole big bag of worm castings, all in the trash can, and my dry amendments, all in the trash can, and I stirred it up. And add water to it, stir it up, add maybe a little bit of, I use tree stump for my, like people use recharge. I use tree stump. So I use tree stump and some molasses water together and some banana peels that I leave sitting in the water. I put all of them in the water overnight. And, like the air bubbles, I irrigate it overnight. And then I put it in the dirt and then leave the dirt for a couple of days. And some people call it cooking it. I don't cook my dirt because it don't get hot. But some people call it cooking it. And then I use it. So I don't have any ratios. I couldn't tell you 33, 42, 12. I don't know. I just know it works for me.
That's Hoodganics, I guess.
It's
right? I'm going to have to put that. I'm going to have to put that in the title. This is going to be the title, How to Grow Hoodganics.
Right. You know what I'm saying? I don't measure. I don't start measuring until it's time to like feed or time to use pH water, like, stuff like chemicals. But when it came to me first making my dirt, I didn't measure anything. Like, I was just like, this looks like about enough. You ever see the meme where the guy's like, shh, it was like that. Ooh, sprinkle. That looks good, Jay. Okay, cool. So, I don't know. But it works. So,
Okay. Well, let's back up. I want to just get into your grow setup first. So correct me if I'm wrong, you're in grow tents. What size grow tents are you in? And then what are you using for lighting? And just, can you talk about your grow room setup?
So I grow in the basement. Well, I'm currently outgrew my basement. I grow in the basement. I have one, two, three, four. I have 5 tents. I grow indoors. Everything's all tent. I have a 8x8. I have a 2x2. I have a 2x4, and I have two 4x4s. So yeah, I have I have two Xfinity fan tents. Yeah, I know people in his code down there. Look in the description and get discount code. Anyway, I have two. I have two Xfinity fans. I have the smaller version, and then I have the 4x4, and then in Bielsen tents. The rest of my tents are in Bielsens, which is an 8x8, and then a 2x4, and then another 4x4. And in my 2x4, I have HLG 300s. And my 2x2 from AC Infinity, I have a Sun 1000. In my 8x8, I have the HLG 600s. I have 2 of those in that one. And then in my other 4x4, I have Photon X 600s. And then in my other 4x4, I just installed the Spider Farmers SE 5000. So I have those. And I just installed those maybe a week ago in those. So
multiple tents, multiple lights, really good lights. I mean, you named off a lot of good lights. HLG 600 R spec. I mean, that's typically for a 5x5 veg. I'm sorry, 5x5 flower, 6x6 veg, 2.6 microliters per joule system efficacy, over 1500 ppf. You know, the best diodes. A lot of people would say Samsung LM301H Inventronics driver.
See, y'all think I'm playing. Look at his face. Look at his face, y'all. When you talk about lights, I want y'all to watch every video. Like, his face got the twinkle. Like, I can watch Chris talk about lights all day. And I'm over light talk, but I can watch him talk. Like, it's like Christmas for you. Like, it's enjoyable to watch. So I can, like, it's so dope.
But yeah, you named off a bunch of good lights. That's really cool that you've actually gotten to the point now where, you know, you mentioned you started off small and kind of worked your way up into some of these things. You didn't start out with HLD 600, right? You had lights before and all that stuff. So it was a gradual transition.
Right. I did not. I used the little $50 lights from Amazon. Like, they blurples. We call them blurples. You know what I mean? I use little blurples. So yes, I did not start off that way. I started off with those, and I just transitioned as I started researching. So yeah.
Awesome. So are you typically starting from seed, or do you do clones, or what?
I do both. I don't use no one else's clones. You will never see me bring anyone's clones from outside into my grow. Never. I would never do that. I'm not against it if that's what you choose to do, but for me, all the horror stories is good enough for me to learn from. I don't know how other people cater to their plants. I don't know what they started to feed them. I don't know what they did to get the clone. I don't know how they cloned. So I choose not to go with clones. But I do use clones because I clone my own plants. So I'm about saving money. If you watch me, you know that I'm about saving money, do it yourself. And cloning saves you money, especially on genetics that you like. I typically use seed. It's funny because I got into cloning because out of everything in growing, I'm one of those people that been lucky to not have no problems with growing. Like, I haven't had not an issue. When people say they have issues and bud rot and I haven't had any of those. Like, I haven't had like bugs or any type of those things. The biggest issue I have in growing, my biggest downfall is germination. I have a problem. I do not know why I've killed so many seeds, but my biggest problem has always been germination. So, yeah, I start from seed because I'm going to get down pack. I don't care. But yeah, so seeds, and then I clone because I need to save time. I want to save time, and I know that because I have germination issues. That you better clone because you may not get nothing.
Well, oftentimes a lot of people don't know this. I mean, one of the reasons why I struggle sometimes when it comes to germination is the temperature of the medium, right? If it's too low, like you're in a basement, you mentioned, maybe the temperature is just too low and it's not able to kind of sprout from the medium just because
Right.
the medium's not in the proper range. I struggle with that myself a little bit. I need to be extra careful that my medium is in the proper temperature. I think a lot of people overlook that.
Okay.
They don't even really think of that. So you might want to look into that. Now, when I looked at your channel, I saw you have, you mentioned DIY. You actually created your own aeroponic setup for cloning. Can you talk to us like how you built that?
Okay, so them machines cost a lot of money. Like they cost a lot of money. And I just was not paying it. I just felt like this doesn't make any sense. This is weird. So I go on YouTube and I'm researching like all these things. And everyone's teaching you how to make these miniature versions of it, right? But the one that I wanted cost $190, right? So I wanted to recreate that one. So I went online and I think I came across Goblin or something, and he was doing it, and then Doggo was doing it. A couple people were doing different things. So I just took some notes, and I decided to do my own version of it and a really bigger version of it. So because I wanted, like I said, I wanted more. So I went to Home Depot, and I got 7-gallon. No, I'm sorry, 14-gallon. 7-gallon and 14-gallon. Just regular tubs, the ones you would, store your Christmas lights in, or the ones you would send to college with your kids or something. I got those. I got me, I want to say correctly, a saw bit, which is, I call it the circle part. I call it a circle, but it's a saw bit. It was like $6. The tubs were like $11. And then I had a coupon too, so I was couponing. What else? Then I went to my local hydroponic store, and I was like, oh, this says air for water. This should work. And I brought 2 of those. And they were like, I had some points because I shop at the local hydroponic store a lot. So those were free for me. Technically, it would have been like $14 a piece or something, but they were free because I had points. And then I proceeded to go home thinking that was it. And I forgot the tubing. I didn't realize that I needed a certain kind of tubing. So then I had to go back to Walmart, got the tubing, and the tubing is for a fish tank. It's basically for a fish tank that cleans the tank out for you. And then I needed some air stones. Got those from Walmart for a fish tank, $4. And I got all these pieces together, and I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I was just like, well, Jay, what are you doing? Like you just have all these pieces. And then I sat down and just mapped it out. I was like, okay, so we're going to I just turned it around. I was like, each square is going to be a hole, right? So I'm putting the holes in. I'm like, dope. So then I'm like, well, how does it clone? I forgot to get the clone thing. So I had to go back to the hydroponic store and get the hockey pucks. I call them hockey pucks. You guys might call them something else. Once again, it's hoodganics. We call them hockey pucks because that's what I can remember about. So, and they're pink. Favorite color. So I got hockey pucks, and I made sure the hockey pucks and the circle drill piece fit together, and it did. And I just proceeded to drill the holes. And then I realized, okay, at first, my first go around, I filled the water up too high, right? So I'm like, this doesn't work. Like, what is going on? I'm doing something wrong. And I realized I didn't build it wrong. I just was putting too much water in the container. So then I had to research on how to clone properly, which now turns into deep water culture, which I really kind of didn't even put 2 to 2 together. Like, oh, I'm doing deep water culture. Hydroponics, here I come. So I realized I was putting too much water. Basically, you want the bubbles to pretty much bubble up, hit the bottom of the stem enough to, moisten it and make the roots stretch. And then I put some great white shark in the water, stir it up, and about the difference between my do-it-yourself cloner and the ones that you purchase, it might take a little bit longer. It takes about 14 days total, and you get really beastie, and my cloner get really beastie ones. Now, the dope thing about this, people, is you don't have to buy a cloner. You don't have to make one, because if you just use water in a cup and change out the water every single day, you'll get the same results. It's just that it's a cup, and you can put 1 or 2, plants in a cup. With the cloners, you can have multiples, and it kind of like helps irrigate a little bit better. So this way, you don't have to change the water every day. And for me, I like to save money and save time, and I'm gonna forget that I gotta change the water. And now we got other problems. So for me, the cloner machine was great because I didn't have to change the water. But you can clone without a cloner or do it yourself.
I'm glad you brought up that cup of water and just sticking it in there. I did that recently, and I got nervous because the cologne started showing like deficiencies, and I wasn't changing out the water every day because I was told that you should, like people do, but you don't have to. Like you can keep the same water for like 14 days and then it will root, but it was starting to struggle.
I change I change it every day. I change a cup of water every single day. I make sure that my stem was cut on the angle, every day. I just make sure I pH the water. And I just had a bucket of water that already pH'd or whatever, and make sure it was a lid and stuff on it. And then every day I would just change the water out. And I left the cups inside the tents, underneath the same cycle of lights or whatever. As a veg, and I didn't have any issues. For me, in my experience, changing the water every day was very important. Because when I didn't, the roots didn't sprout, or they died, or whatever the case may be. So for me, changing the water every day just worked. So
I'm gonna change out the water every day next time. But a big difference between the cup of water versus the aeroponic method that you built, the DIY aeroponic setup, you're gonna get you must be getting much faster roots with the aeroponic setup, right?
Yeah.
Because of the aeration. You've also got, like you said, I think you sprinkled gray white in there.
Right.
So you must be getting roots as early as 5 days, roughly maybe 7 days max. Is that right?
In between 7 to, I tell people just on the safe side 14 days for everything, because I want to be like, oh my gosh, she said no. So I say 14 days. But for me, if you go, like you said, like 5 to 7 days, and if you see the video of the cloner machine I did, that was a week later, I think it was, maybe. Like, so, and they're coming out. Like, they are, like, crazy. Like, you got to put them in dirt quick, because, like, they're beasts and really good. So, and they're strong roots, and they're beautiful to look at. So, about 5 to 7 days. They're pretty good. But I say 14 just in case you do something wrong, or didn't use great white, or didn't your water not pH'd, or there's other things in that can contribute to why your roots are not coming. Maybe you got too much water. Maybe you didn't pH the water, or maybe something fell in your water, or maybe you didn't sanitize your bucket enough. Because you got to realize that it's do it yourself, so you don't want none of the particles that you solved in, or none of those things in your water. You got to scrub that water out. Scrub that bucket out. So, yeah, so you want to make sure none of those in it, because that can affect how your roots going to come in. Like, it will affect you. You don't think it would, but it would.
Gotcha. One more question, which is the pH of it. You said you monitor the pH. I know you have a Blue Lab pH pen. Mm-hmm. What pH do you aim for in your aeroponic cloner?
I aim for 6.2 everything.
Okay. And then did you do like a ppm or EC as well? Do you do any type of...
I did ppms a few times. No, too much math. I'm not doing that. Too much math.
Gotcha.
It's too much information to keep up with for me. The ppms is good knowledge. I research it to understand how ppms work. I do have my setup too in case I need to do a runoff, because of like I said, I haven't come across any issues yet. So I have things in place. Because like I said, I watch people and their problems. So I'm very proactive. I don't want problems, but I do set myself up, and my growth setup is set up for it. If a problem does arise, I'm already set up for it. So like, for example, I do, for my plants, I bottom feed and a little bit of, I bottom water, I should say, not feed. I bottom water and I water on top a little bit. But I have a drain system, a flattened drain system.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you about that. Yeah. Maybe we can get into that next. Well, first of all, what type of water do you use? Do you use RO, tap, well water?
I use tap water.
Okay. Talk to us about your flood and drain tray DIY setup that you did.
Okay, so, well, on the tap water side, I'm lucky my tap water doesn't come out that high like some people. It relatively stays like at a 7.5 sometimes. During the winter to summer transition right now, for like the next 30 days, it will jump up a little bit. So I got to watch it a little bit, and then it'll go back down. And normally when you straight out of my tap, it's a 7, like straight out the tap. So I don't really have, like, it'll adjust itself once I put the water in the dirt type thing. But I still check it. My flood and drain system. Thank you, Vader. Thank you. This is the courtesy information, courtesy of Vader people. So I'm older. I'm lazy. Hoodganics again. What we're not gonna do. I don't want to keep bending over my bag. Like, so I was like, I want my plants off the floor. I'm in the basement now because I started learning how to grow an indoor garden upstairs in my home. So in my home, I have carpet, in the room or whatever. As my knowledge is expanding, my grow is expanding. So I ended up moving into my basement. But my basement is concrete floors like anyone else's basement, so it was colder on the floor. So I wanted to get my plants off the floor. And so I started off with building the tables. And I was going to order the tables. Chris, they wanted $600 a table. Like, I'm not paying you $600 a table. Like, that's the price I'm not doing that. So I learned to build tables from watching Vader. That video said, the trick in that video is you need 2 people. So on my video, it's just me. On Vader's video, he has it right. Follow Vader, okay? He got 2 people. You need 2 people. I struggle. But it was a third of the cost for building the tables. So I built the 2 tables, and then I came across Doggo. Doggo was building a drain system. And the only thing I didn't like about his drain system was his pumping, the way he was pumping out. So I had to go back and research on how I wanted my pumps to go. And no one had it. Like, no one had, like, a system at first. So on my flat tables, and you should have saw me, Chris, right? This is what I mean by hoodganics, y'all. Such a girl. I did not measure the tables, right? So I did the tables in my tent already. So, of course, you have to buy the flat drain stuff, like the drain tables. So I never measured the drain table. Like, I just didn't do it. So I get to the hydroponic store, and I'm like, yeah, that looked like it'll fit. Good one. I'll get 2 of those. And when in my eyesight, so ladies, make sure you either learn how to take measurements or get you to Google measure on your phone. Lesson learned. I learned to measure things out now. This is why. I buy these tables thinking that they were going to fit. When I got home, these tables was twice the size of the table that I built. Like, in my mind, I thought the flat tables were the same, but they were not the same. They were humongous. Like, they were so big. They were like big, built for like a 10 by 10 or something. So I had to go back and get the smaller versions. So now I get those, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put the pump at. Like, some people have a trash can to pump the water out. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to pump the water out. None of that worked for me. Limited space, and I wanted to be more convenient. So I remember making the cloning machine. So I was just like, you know what? Back to Home Depot we go, and I go get the tubs. So now I have 14-gallon tubs under my tables, and now I got to figure out where I'm going to put the tubing in. I'm such a girl. I'm like not measuring nothing out again. So I look, and at the bottom of your flag, people, if you look at your draining tables, you have these little circles. You probably would never pay attention to it, but there's these little circles on both sides, right, in front of the numbers. Like, so on your drain table, it should say like 2 feet, 3 feet. You should have numbers. And right above that is these 2 little circles. And I drilled the holes in those circles, put the tubes in, and then I used epoxy to seal them. And I got that idea from some guy that was building a water fountain. He was building a water fountain, and he just had this little $7 pump thing, water go in, water go out. That's how he explained it. And when he said it, I was like, that sounds genius. I go back to the store for $5. I get water go in, water go out. And I epoxy it, and it fit right into the little hole that I made. And you plug it up into the the air pump. It was the air pump. I used the air pumps again. And once again, I had some points, free air pumps. So, and I plug in, all the tubing and stuff that I got from Home Depot. And you just got to figure out about your air pumps, what size tubes you want to use. And and I put a going in system and a going out system. Going in two, going out two. And I played with that for a while, filled it up, see how it went up, see how it went down. And it happened to work. Now, the problem with that was, Chris, was in order to water the plants, I would physically have to go downstairs and plug the pump up. That would defeat the purpose of me doing this whole table. Like, that was dumb, Chris. Like, I'm like to myself, Jay, that is so stupid. Like, I gotta go downstairs and plug it in just to... Then what did you build the tables for? You might as well just hand water. So then I sat back and I realized I didn't know what I was going to do. I had the Jharia hub, the Jharia grow hub, and I just didn't work well for me. So I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I had the Ring doorbell. And I'm sitting in my house and the Ring doorbell's, someone's at your front door. Someone's at your front door. And you come up on my camera. And I was like, dang, I wonder if they got any products like that. So I went to Best Buy and they had these little plugs. Right? These little plugs that's good for Alexa. They're good for any programs you have like for your housing or whatever. So I proceeded to plug the pumps into those, downloaded it to my phone, and I was like, God, I hope this works. And guess what? It works. So now it turns on for an hour, and I can leave the water on as long as I want, and or program it how many times a day I want it to come on, depending on where I'm at in the veg or the flower stage, and it waters itself. The only thing I have to do is once a week, make sure the water at the bottom in the reservoirs are pH correctly. I'm cleaning them out, and they are full. So I went from watering like every day, my hand watering every day, to just checking on water once a week.
That's awesome. That makes things so much easier. I have a auto watering system myself. I use the blue mats. So I've been using those, the blue mat carrots, and hooked up to a reservoir. It's gravity fed, so as long as it's above kind of the grow pot, as come down, and then it'll automatically drop down as the medium dries out. So that's been easier. I've used the auto pot systems in the past, where it's basically same thing, gravity fed. It goes to the bottom of the grow pot, and it's like bottom feeding, and it wicks its way up. But right. Those things save so much time. It's like you mentioned, like hand watering. It can be time consuming, and depending on your grow setup, like if you need to like get back into your grow tent because you got other plants in front, like then you got to move plants out of the tent. Lean into your tent. Like it can be a lot easier to have an auto watering system set up at some point, whether it be blue mats, auto pot, flood and drain trays,
right?
So on and so forth. So it's pretty cool that you actually got to that point. Now you're probably saving a ton of time.
I am, because normally I was in my gardens for like 13 hours a day. It felt like. Now, between me switching my soil over to organics, and then me also doing to automatic watering, I'm a lazy gardener, Chris. I'm so lazy. I gotta find a new project now. I don't have nothing to do. I be bored. I be just messing with the plants for no reason. You know how you got, I had to, go back to the basics. I gotta keep it simple, because if I don't, I'll be in there just messing around and messing the plants up. So, because there'll be nothing to do now. So, now I just take on new projects. I'm gonna grow some spring things.
So you mentioned in the beginning how you kind of throw together your mix, your soil mix. You have amendments in it to begin. But how about later on in the grow, right? So what nutrients are you using, and when are you actually like feeding? Like I'm assuming that you said you're organic now, so I'm assuming you're doing some sort of like top dressing. What do you use? When do you apply it?
So I top dress. I use it's Dr. Earth. I use those, and their whole line is, to me, it's awesome. It's a little smelly, but it's pretty awesome. Like I said, hoodganics. I take a bucket from Home Depot. Yeah, that's my favorite store. I take a bucket from Home Depot, the paint bucket, and I go and I get the dry amendments from my local Aeroponic store, or I have to order them. And I took the whole boxes of them, and I just mix them together in a trash bag really well, and then double the bag out, and I shake it like you shaking chicken. And I shake it, put it in the bucket, put the lid on it, and then I feed my plants in veg in the beginning. I top dress in the beginning, and they pretty much lasts me about 30 days in veg. So I don't have to feed again. Now I do use in between that what I call tree stump, which is like a recharge. So for better lack of terms, it is a recharge. For me, I like tree stump. I don't use recharge. Nothing against recharge, though. It works pretty awesome for what I see. But that's just my brand, and it's just cheaper. And it does the same thing. And the reason why I probably also use it is because tree stump does not need to be irrigated. I can just pour it right into some water, measure it out. I do measure that out. Measure that out and put it in the water, and it's ready to go off the bat. And if I run out, my local hydroponic store also gives you free already made tea every Tuesday. Just you gotta bring a container. But I use that, so I use tree stump about once a week. I use it once a week. And then in flour, I'll chop dress again in flour. And then I don't have to do it again. That's it. So I pretty much feed probably twice during my cycles. In the beginning, and then in the beginning of flour. Yeah, so those are the only two times that I feed, and it's in the dirt. Now, like I said before, because I've been running my organics for a minute now, that feed is already constantly in my dirt. It's constantly in my dirt. So I don't have to feed as much. I will say the first time me ever switching over to dried amendments, though, I did have to top dress twice in veg and then twice in flour to get to the level where now I don't have to do that. So that's where that's at. And that's the good part about it. Yeah.
That's pretty straightforward. Now, how about environment conditions? First of all, do you supplement CO2? And then also, what do you aim for temperature and humidity?
So when it comes to temperature and humidity, that's tough to answer for me. And the reason why I say that is because some people have a baseline of what they go off. I go off the cultivar. So I go off what I'm growing. So I have grown some cultivars where they like the temperature to be, 86 and the humidity to be like 69%. And I have grown some cultivars where they like the regular baseline, 72, 78, something like that is temperature wise, and then 62, 65 for humidity, depending on the situation. So I pretty much research the plant. And then maybe for me, I stress them. Like some people do training. I don't train, but I will stress a plant the hell out though. I will stress you out to your max to see what happens if I don't give you air, or you don't have no airflow. If your temperature is too hot, if your temperature is too low, I will stress the plant out just to understand that particular cultivar on what the baseline should be for that particular cultivar. So that's how I do mine. So if you're talking about, let's just say, for vernacular terms, a green pepper, and this particular green pepper wants 80 degrees temperature and then 66 humidity. That's what I give that green pepper. But then I might have a red pepper that wants temperatures to be at 72 and humidity at 62. They're going to a different tent, and that's what they're getting. So that's pretty much how I do that. So I can have two tents going on, and they're going to have two different environments. They're not going to have the same environment. You're not going to come into my tents and see all the same environment. They're all different.
Gotcha. Now, do you do anything with CO2?
No, I'm just now learning CO2. As of right now, where I'm at with research-wise, I come across that. I pretty much don't need it yet. Me just breathing enough is cool, pretty much. I do want to... I do want to try it out just to see. I am interested to see, like firsthand, not just on the video, the difference. But I haven't tried it yet. So no, I don't use CO2.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been using those T&B Naturals canisters.
Okay.
And now I actually just bought one of those exhale CO2 bags. So I'm going to be using those for the first time and seeing how that compares to the canisters. So
now, how does the canisters work from you not having the canisters?
I've monitored like the ppm levels. That you also monitor ppm for CO2 as well, and I've been able to get upwards of 1,000, even more at some points, assuming it's a sealed environment. Now, oftentimes I'm exhausting the air. So keeping that up past 1,000, it doesn't really work with the canisters for me. But monitoring the ppm levels, I have got it up. typically on average maybe 700, 800 ppm, but upwards of 1,000. So it does definitely work compared to just not doing any sort of CO2
Man,
supplementation
Chris,
at
you
all.
were supposed to say, oh, no big difference. So now I gotta go downstairs and start PPMing y'all and add oxygen because Mr. Gross said that's what it is. You don't boss, and listen, the boss has spoken. So now I got one. Man.
I think measuring CO2 is, some people would say it's an overkill to even measure. The meters cost so much.
Yeah.
Generally, people don't even bother to get any type of CO2 measurement going. So
I'm going to try one day. Just not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm going to try. I am.
So, you have quite a bit of several years experience growing. What advice do you have for someone who's just starting to grow for the first time?
Ask yourself, do you really want to grow? Do you want to be a consumer of the things that you're growing, or do you want to get into agriculture? Understand that if you're going to do this, then do your research. The one thing I'm learning in this is just do you. Growing for me has taught me to be okay with failure. I'll say this a lot. Growing for me has taught me to be okay with failure. At one point, I thought failing was not an option. I used to stress myself out if I failed at something. I would beat myself up if I failed at something. I felt like a failure. And like anyone else, I got mental stress and else like other people. And it played a big part in my mental. A failure played a big part in my mental. I was terrified of failing. So for me, for gardening, it taught me to be okay with failure. It taught me to embrace failure. And with that, you learn, when you embrace failure, I learned that you learn more things about yourself. It reveals things about yourself. So for me, gardening has taught me a lot about me. And I'll give you an example as a kind of off topic. As women, we get, I guess, like bitter, I guess you want to call it. So I'm a bitter bitch. No, I'm joking. But for me, it embraced failure, which taught me to be okay with certain things. And I fell in love with falling in love again, which is the dopest thing ever, right? So I'm in love with my plants. I'm in love with gardening. I'm in love with myself all over again. I'm in love with who I'm becoming through gardening. I'm in love with the interactions where I get to meet with people. So for me with gardening, I feel like if you're going to do this, do your research. Be okay with what you want to do. Don't let nobody, and I say this because like earlier I was talking about germination. Like one of my biggest play with germination is because I allowed everybody else's way to get in my head on how to germinate. And not remembering how I started my first grow ever. My first grow ever with germination was never an issue. I didn't have an issue, and that wasn't an issue. It was dirt. Like that was my issue. And now it's like I got an issue with germination. That's because I allow everyone else to tell me what's right and what's wrong. And in growing, there's no right or wrong way. There's no like this is wrong or that's wrong. You should be PPMing. You should be knowing our BBDs. Like no, that's not how this works. Like I'm going to do my gardening to where I see fit. That helps me out. What goes on in my garden, what goes on in my climate, what goes on in my neck of the woods. So I feel like if you're going to start growing and get into gardening, do what makes you happy. I don't give a darn if you want to grow blueberries from the damn ceiling. Like if you want to try that, try that. You know what I mean? Don't let anybody say, oh, you can't grow blueberries from the ceiling. Well, how you going to know if you don't try? You won't know. Like there's people growing stuff straight up now, just straight up and down. They would have never known that if they didn't try it. You know what I mean? So try it. And if it don't work, guess what? It just don't work. Try it again. And then if you over try something different. You know what I mean? And if people don't like it, then they ain't gotta like it. That's how I feel about it. Don't let nobody tell you what not to do. Like that's what we do at Kinesis. Kinesis stand for do not tell me what I cannot do, sis. I can do whatever I put my mind to. So don't let nobody tell you can't do nothing. And that's just basically it. That's the only advice I'll give you. Do what you want. Make your own world. It's just your world. And if they don't like your world, tell them I say get out. That's it. That's all to it. That's it.
Definitely some really good advice there for sure. So wrapping things up, how can the listeners find you and what do you have upcoming in the future?
You can find me on YouTube, Jharia Blaque, or you can go on JhariaBlaque.com on my website. You can go find me on Instagram, Jharia Blaque on Instagram. You can find me on Twitch on Grow Like a Girl CLTV. You can find me in the chat rooms over on 9:30 at night on Sundays with Session with the Guys at 9:30 on CL Media on Sundays. I'm normally on Discord Sunday mornings, stalking Mr. Grow It on Sunday mornings. When he drops his videos, you can find me there on Discord, stalking Mr. Grow It. What else? And then on Friday nights, I'm normally stalking Doggy. You can find me in the chat room. I'm stalking Gigi. I'm stalking a couple people, so you can find me just lurking. No, I'm joking. I'm easy. I'm approachable. You can hit me up on Instagram, anywhere. Just Candace's session on Friday nights at 8:30. And I'm on Twitch after dark at 10:30. Candace after dark. And then on Sundays, 7:30 every Sunday on Jharia Blaque on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, I will link Jharia's YouTube channel down in the description section below. You can tune into her content. I'll also link the video I did with you on your channel, the one about lights. I'll link that down in the description section below as well, so people can check that one out. If you enjoyed this video, click that thumbs up button. I'm trying to get as many thumbs up as possible. Feel free to share this if you feel like people would value from this information. If you're tuning in on one of the podcast platforms, particularly Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and review. Coming up to 200 ratings and reviews. Would love to pass that this year if possible. Thank you to everyone who has left a rating and review so far. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already on YouTube. So busting out these garden talk videos every single week. And also there's some other goodies that come onto this channel every now and then. So hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified when new videos are released. Jharia, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. This was fun.
Thank you.
Really cool.
I love hanging out with you. Listen, guys, let me tell you, all right? So we'll start on for release. So we get the MJ BizCon, right? And y'all know me, like I am Mr. Grow It fan, like a big fan. So I get there, and Chris, what you know, I fangirled every day. Every day I go home, I'm like, yo, I didn't know what to say in front of this man, and I talk a lot. Like, I talk a lot. But every time Chris come on, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should hug him, not hug him. I wanted to pinch his cheeks. I was like, he's real. Like, he's really in front of me. Like, this is so dope. So every day I was like, my friends back at the hotel, I was like, you okay? I was like, like, I was fanning out, yo, the whole week, yo. It took me a whole week before I got normal. By the end of the week, it took me like, okay, Chris, it took me a whole week. He didn't know it, but it took me a whole week, Chris. By the time the end of the weekend, I was like, I can breathe now. I can't breathe before. I appreciate
That's
you
so
so
funny.
much.
Yeah, I'm just another human being. But it was really fun meeting you at MJ BizCon, and I'm sure you'll be back there next year for sure, and we'll be hanging out once again, so I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you for having me. God bless you and everything you do. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the content that you make. I hope God blesses you and wraps his arms around you and make sure every door that you don't see open does open. So, bye, guys.
Thank you. We'll leave it at that. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You
Peace.
too.